I'm Jay.
And I'm John.
And we're Bucket List Travellers, coming to you from Matagalpa, Nicaragua. We're in the Parque Morazon at the moment, which is the main park in Matagalpa, and we're just having some breakfast, and then we're going to take you on a walking tour.
We're starting our tour today in Matagalpa here at San Pedro Catedral, or the Cathedral of St. Peter.
This cathedral was actually built back in 1874, and it's the third largest church in all of Nicaragua. I love the look of this church. It's a whitewashed neoclassical cathedral, and inside it's got a lot of wood, a lot of altars, and it's really beautiful.
It is really pretty, and it is massive. You can see it go all the way back a couple of blocks. It's right next to Parque Morazan, which is a really nice central park. Matagalpa is a little bit different in that it has more than one main park.
Most cities and towns that you see in Nicaragua, they have a central park with the main cathedral of the city right next to the park, and usually it's called Parque Central de whatever city or town you're in. It isn't in Matagalpa for some weird reason.
I believe Parque Morazan was named after Francisco Morazan, who was the first and only president of the Federal Republic of Central America. So Central America was one whole country in the 1800s, and that was from 1830 to 1839. Unfortunately, that then dissolved, and we won't go into the details why, but there was a United States of Central America.
This statue is of the two founders of the Nicaraguan political party, Sandinista National Liberation Front, or FSLN. And that's often represented by the red and black flags that you can see behind them.
The guy on your right is Carlos Fonseca, and the guy on your left is Tomas Borge Martinez. Fonseca was born right here in Matagalpa. So the political history of Nicaragua is very fascinating and quite complicated, so we're not going to go into it in too much detail here, but just very simply, Carlos was the key founder of the FSLN in the 60s, and he was inspired by the Cuban Revolution around that time and wanted to
create the same sort of thing for Nicaragua?
Yeah. He wanted to change the leadership of Nicaragua, then leader Somoza, and put in rule that was more in line with communist philosophies that he had read up on. So he was particularly inspired by Marx, and he had visited Russia as well in the 60s.
So if you've been following the news recently, this week there was an election in Nicaragua. FSLN is the ruling party and it has remained in power. Current president is Daniel Ortega. His wife is the vice president. What's her name?
Rosario Murillo.
Yeah, so we're not going to go into politics too much. We've been trying to steer clear of talking about the political situation in Nicaragua, but we do want to make note that that is something that has happened recently. And if you want to know more, then we suggest you just look it up on the news. So there's a lot of fruit stalls and markets around here, and as well as supermarkets. Now, you are going to get the cheapest fruit and vegetables from just the street vendors and the local markets as opposed to going to the supermarket. In supermarkets, you'll pay maybe 3 times as much as what you would on the street.
Up to, yeah.
There's lots of great fresh produce, some that are very local to Nicaragua. What's that fruit that we saw?
Jocote.
Jocote. So if you do want to go to a supermarket, we've got La Colonia to the right of us, and that's more like a Whole Foods. So you've got a lot of imported goods there. You can get like Asian food, lots of different grains. So we do shop there from time to time. It is a bit more on the expensive side, especially for a supermarket in Nicaragua. If you're after something very specific, then La Colonia is probably the place to go.
One of the things I love about Nicaragua is the availability of such amazing tropical fruit and vegetables.
Yeah.
So we talked about jocote. This one, we've never seen this fruit before. Like, it's a little fruit. It's eaten all times of the year. However, I think around March, April is when it ripens and it turns red, but otherwise it's a yellow or green. And it's very popular in Nicaragua, ripe and unripe. When it's green or unripe, you have it with salt as well.
And it's quite tart, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And the same goes for mango as well. So mango is arguably more popular in Nicaragua.
In its green form.
Yeah, in its green form. Once again, people eat mango in its green form with salt. We tried that once or twice, and it's probably not to our taste.
John's got a really sweet tooth.
Yeah,
so
I much prefer mango when it's red or
orange.
orange. Yeah, when it's very sweet. It's my favourite fruit. Yeah.
But some of the other fruit that we've really enjoyed here are pitaya. There's lots of melons, there's lots of bananas.
Is avocado a fruit?
Technically.
Yeah. So avocado is very plentiful in Nicaragua during the season, and you get all ranges of avocados. You can get massive ones, small ones.
So off to the left here, we've got a popular local eatery in Asado El Bamboo. So we ate here once before. The food comes out really quickly, lots of grilled meats, and it's quite cheap as well.
Yeah, you can get a very affordable desayuno or breakfast.
The typical breakfasts in Nicaragua have gallo pinto, which is a rice and beans mixture. You have eggs, tortillas, cheese, a type of cheese which is more like a white cheese, a bit salty.
Yeah, and in Matagalpa, the cheese that's very popular or made in these parts is called cuajada.
Cuajada's really good.
Yeah, it's a really nice cheese. It's sort of mild taste, and
About 50 or 60 Cordobas a pound, I think. Is it?
yeah. Oh no, we could
Oh,
get it
it's-
for 40 Cordobas a pound, which is just over $1 US. Yeah, and the taste it's like a bit like cottage cheese, but hard.
Yeah,
That would-
yeah.
Harder than cottage cheese. Yeah, really nice.
So there's some regional specialties that you can get around here. Guairila is a popular dish that you must have when you're in Matagalpa. So it's a white sweet corn. It's kind of like a tortilla, but it's sweeter and it's served with that harder cheese and often some cream.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
And here down the main street, we've got a whole range of clothing shops. There's a range from higher end all the way through to discount retailers and used clothes.
Yeah, so secondhand clothes are very popular in Nicaragua. They're often shipped down from the US, and often they're specifically advertised as US secondhand clothes. So you can get secondhand clothes quite cheaply here, and there's quite a good range. So we're in the city of Matagalpa, which is the capital of the department of Matagalpa. And the city is home to about 100,000 people, whereas the department is home to around 500,000 people. So Matagalpa is one of the most commercially important cities in Nicaragua, and it is known as the Pearl of the North, or the land of eternal spring.
Yeah, eternal spring because the weather is so beautiful here. It's quite temperate and it's a lot more moderate than other parts of Nicaragua. So you would still get it to be pretty hot during the middle of the day. So it still exceeds around 30 degrees Celsius, or I don't know, that's in the 80s Fahrenheit. But then in the night, the temperature just cools down a lot and you get below 20 degrees Celsius, or I don't know, that's maybe 60 degrees Fahrenheit. It's just really pleasant, and you really don't need fans or anything to sleep, so it's quite nice.
It's nice to even be able to wear a jumper every once in a while.
Yeah. We certainly haven't been wearing jumpers anywhere else in Nicaragua.
Yeah, so there is a small but very tight-knit expat community in the Matagalpa region. They do have a Facebook group if you are interested in moving to this area as an expat. It's definitely a good option for an alternative to your more popular places like Granada or San Juan del Sur or the capital Managua. So if you like a milder climate and nice countryside, and you like being up in the hills, then this is a good option to consider for either living in Nicaragua or visiting Nicaragua.
Yeah. And Matagalpa is off the beaten track as far as general tourism goes. So I think if you want a real authentic Nicaraguan experience, there won't be the same tourist infrastructure as San Juan del Sur or Granada. It's a much more authentic experience.
Oh, and the food scene around here is really good. There's so many nice cafes and restaurants in Matagalpa.
One great place to eat in Matagalpa is Pattaya. It's a really nice fresh fruit bar where you can get all manner of fruit bowls,
Fruit
smoothies.
bowls. Yeah, so that's just off to the right there. And yeah, everything's just fresh and delicious. And they've got a really good Instagram game as well. Like, their food is so vibrant and nicely presented that, yeah, it's really good for photos.
We're coming up to Parque Rubén Darío, named after the famous Nicaraguan poet. He's arguably the most famous Nicaraguan of all time. He was extremely influential in the 1800s. Rubén Darío was born right here in the Matagalpa department, not in Matagalpa, but a village just outside Matagalpa, and he was born in 1867.
And Rubén Darío is known for his very musical style of poetry, and he was the leader of the
Modernismo literary movement. So there was a Spanish-American movement that he founded. It was a very, very original poetic style, and as Jay was saying, there's a lot of rhythm and musicality and imagery to the style, and it founded a tradition. He's seen to be one of the greatest Spanish poets ever.
Spanish language poets.
Yeah. Very impressive. And it's not surprising that there are tributes to Rubén Darío everywhere.
around.
There are parks named after him everywhere.
So many statues.
So many statues. So he's such a large figure to this day. So he passed away in 1916, but is still one of the key Nicaraguan figures. Next to Parque Rubén Darío is Parroquia San Jose, or Church of St. Joseph. So this one is even older than Catedral San Pedro.
It was originally constructed in 1751, and it was used as a jail for Indigenous rebels in the late 1800s. But it was rebuilt by Franciscan friars in 1917. All around Parque Rubén Darío are a wide variety of great cafes to choose from.
Yeah, one of the great things about Matagalpa is its cafe scene. So there's Selección Nicaragüense, which is a cafe chain, which you can find in a number of locations throughout Nicaragua.
Yeah, so there's two in Matagalpa, one near this park and one near the other park.
Yeah, really good cafe. It's very similar to cafes that you'd find in the US or Australia. Really good food, really great coffee. Right next to it was
Chocolate cafe called Mulu Cacao. Chocolate is produced in Nicaragua, so make sure you have some chocolate when you're in the country because it is brilliant.
Yeah, it was really nice. And you can go upstairs and get a good view of overlooking the park and the square.
Cathedral.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
Yeah, and we've just passed Cafe Belen, which is another chain cafe. It sells a lot of typical Nicaraguan food as well as burgers and sandwiches and that sort of thing. And it's more like a bakery cafe. Okay, let's talk more about the history of Matagalpa.
Matagalpa was originally an indigenous village, and the people were known as the Cacalpera people. There are various views on the origins of the name Matagalpa. So from the indigenous language, it was known as main head or big town. So the specific words were maker, which is head, and kapul, which is town. However, there are other views saying that it came from a different language altogether, the Sumo language, and the interpretation was let's go where the rocks are.
So there did used to be an indigenous language in this area, but unfortunately it became extinct back in 1875. So in addition to the two different descriptions that we mentioned before, there are other ones as well, aren't there?
Yeah, so there's also here next to the water or among the mountains. Both those make sense as well because it is next to the water and
next to the mountains.
next to the mountains.
Generally, the names have related to the geographic location of the city, which is next to the Grand River of Matagalpa. So let's talk about the pre-colonial history of Matagalpa.
The Cacalpera people were known for making ceramics, and they were feared by the Spanish because they were very brave and effective with their bows and other arms. So it actually took 300 years for them to submit to the Spanish. And so even at the time of Nicaragua independence in 1821, there were many Cacalpera free roaming around the central mountains of Nicaragua.
And in 1856, they were also integral to the defeat of the American filibuster William Walker, who was in Nicaragua and was trying to take over Nicaragua.
Yeah, and declare himself president.
Yeah, which he eventually did before eventually getting killed. They were effective in defeating him in the Battle of San Jacinto. And the Indios Flecheros de Matagalpa were actually declared national heroes of the Battle of San Jacinto by Congress in the Republic of Nicaragua. So some great things to do in Matagalpa and around Matagalpa include going up the hill. So there's a tourist bus that'll take you up the hill to a lookout, and there are great views out of over Matagalpa, aren't there?
Yeah, it's quite the bus ride as well. You may have noticed there are a lot of electrical wires overhead, and the bus is a double-decker bus, and
So it's open air up the top.
yeah, it's open air up the top, and so you just got to duck your head every now and again just to make sure you don't get hit by a wire.
But it's a fun ride up some windy roads, and you get some great views up the top. And if you do go up the top, don't forget to go to the cafe there, because the cafe is really nice.
Yeah, there are a couple of venues there that you can choose from. We went to La Repubblica, and it was really nice. We had this
Great food,
Yeah, we
great
had
prices.
Yeah, we had a massive nachos, and that was really delicious.
Yeah. So other things you can do are, there's a, on the other side to that lookout that we were talking about, there's a hike that you can do up to a cross at the top of the hill. So that's quite a strenuous hike, I believe. And there's also nearby, there's Cascadas Blancas.
Yeah, so that's about maybe a half an hour bus ride out of town.
Yeah, from the north bus stop. And it's a really pretty area with manicured gardens and really nice waterfalls, like a main waterfall to look at. Again, there's a restaurant. I think you can even stay overnight.
We also got to meet the owner of the waterfall, and he was a really lovely guy, and he told us this story about
Two lovers who met at this waterfall. It was really nice. And this is quite a romantic area, and there's a lot of nice walks and secluded spots where you can share a moment with your partner. Quite a nice place to come.
Another great place to visit just outside Matagalpa is Selva Negra. So Selva Negra is an eco lodge as well as a farm.
It's got a really nice German, like European vibe to it. It's got a beautiful lake. We've actually done a couple of videos about it, so check it out if you're interested.
So just a bit more history around it. Gold was discovered around Matagalpa in the 1800s. So that brought in an influx of European settlers, and two of those settlers were Ludwig Elster and his wife Katharina Braun. These were two German settlers from the Black Forest in Germany. And so, rather than go searching for gold, they decided to plant the first coffee trees in the area. They named their farm Selva Negra.
Which is Black Forest in Spanish. And so that was the start of the coffee business in Nicaragua, which today is quite one of the biggest industries in Nicaragua. But the descendants of those two first German immigrants ended up turning Selva Negra into an eco lodge and an eco farm, and that's what it is today. If you get a chance, have a chat to Mousy, who's one of the owners of the area. So if this is your first time watching our channel, we do a lot of videos on traveling in Nicaragua specifically, but also in Central America and travel more broadly. So if you are interested in more videos like this, then don't forget to subscribe.
So we're just coming into a market here, and you will typically find markets near the bus stations, or maybe that's vice versa. Maybe you find the bus stations near the markets.
Yeah, so markets in Nicaragua are always a hive of activity, a lot of things to see and to buy. There's clothing, there's household goods, there's meat and fruit and vegetables. Markets are a great place to come to get cheap fruit and vegetables and other cheap goods, and they're a good way to experience the local culture firsthand.
Yeah, for sure. And so we're coming up to the South Bus Station here in Matagalpa. Bear in mind that there are two main bus stations here, the South Bus Station and the North Bus Station.
Yeah, so this is called Cotron Sur, which is the South Bus Station. Buses from the South Bus Stop go to places like Esteli, Jinotega and Managua. And if you go to the North Bus Stop, then that's good for places like Cascada Blanca, which we found out the hard way when we walked here, found out there were no buses to the place that we wanted and had to go. It's about 20 minutes walk or so to the other bus stop from here.
Yeah, sort of the other end of
Right
town.
at the other end of town. Both areas around the bus stops are really interesting places with a lot of people and a lot of atmosphere.
And we loved traveling via bus around Nicaragua. It's really interesting. It's a great way to get around. There's buses pretty much everywhere. We even were able to get to small villages using buses. The network is really extensive. And what's even better is that it's very cheap as well. So you'd pay less than $1 to travel most places. So that would be for an hour or more on a bus.
Yeah, for only 30 Cordobas. So highly recommend it. It's a great cultural experience and you get to travel in the old style American school buses.
We hope you've enjoyed this walking tour of Matagalpa, Nicaragua.
We are Bucket List Travellers.
See you next time.